Few issues unite Polish society the way opposition to mass immigration does. However, Poland's current government, which took power in late 2023, does not seem to reflect this sentiment. Today, residents of Częstochowa, who fear for their safety, expressed their opposition to the creation of migrant integration centres at a session of the City Council. In doing so, they cited examples of cities in other European countries where large migrant populations have caused a spike in crime. Częstochowa is not an isolated case. A centre is also to be built in the town of Poręby, which is strongly supported by the mayor there. All this is preparation for the implementation of the EU Migration Pact, according to which migrants will be reallocated between EU member states to share the burden. Despite Donald Tusk's assurances that Poland would not have to take in migrants due to having taken in Ukrainian refugees, everything, including other countries' public statements, points towards Poland accepting other countries' migrants. Częstochowa, residents voiced their opposition to accepting illegal immigrants. Local politicians were forced to listen to the voice of ordinary people. We oppose the actions that may result in the deterioration of the security of the residents of Częstochowa. The example of many European cities shows that implementing such solutions and the legitimization of the phenomenon of illegal migration have resulted in a significant increase in crime and caused irreversible chaos. Częstochowa's residents are supported by opposition politicians. Do you know how much funding is allocated for the realization of just these integration centers, where one of them is to be, just in Częstochowa, more than 430 million zloty? That money could, for example, have been used to support local hospitals. Częstochowa's hospital specifically is heavily in debt. However, for the ruling coalition government, preparation for accepting migrants is seemingly more important. When the CBA, under the Law and Justice government, went to a plot of land to the parents of Minister Wawryk's assistant, they found money buried in the ground in jars from the visa trade. Częstochowa's residents were supported by Ryszard Majcik, a legendary opposition activist from the communist era. He straightforwardly warned what agreeing to accept illegal migrants entails. 6 million refugees. These peoples don't want to integrate, they don't want to assimilate. What exactly do they want to do in Poland? To make a mess, things like murder, banditry, rape. Despite the fact that Częstochowa is in the interior of the country, the organisation of protests against illegal migration from the border defence movement was not absent from the session. Prime Minister Donald Tusk spoke about the fact that the Migration Pact is not in force. On the other hand, so far no action has been taken to limit this pact, which is supposed to come into force in 2026. It has not been challenged in the EU Court of Justice, which means that Tusk is carrying out the implementation of the migration plans concocted in Brussels and Berlin. Częstochowa is just one of the cities where so-called centres for foreigner integration are to be established. Another example is Poręby near Katowice, where the city's mayor is praising the government's approach to migration. I am an ardent supporter of this integration centre as a pro-development element for the city. However, the residents of Poręby have a different opinion. Asked today about the centre's issues, the mayor was unwilling to answer. Despite the ruling coalition's wishes, Polish society at large remains wary of illegal immigrants. Residents of European cities have been grappling with the effects of the influx of immigrants for years and see scenes like this on a daily basis. Such sites may become a daily reality in Poland, especially since migrants are being funneled to Poland by German police, and what's worse, this is met with passivity by Polish services.
Just before the second round of US-Iran negotiations on regulating Tehran's nuclear program, surprising facts about the situation in the region are coming to light. According to US media reports, President Donald Trump blocked a massive Israeli attack on Iran. Tel Aviv was prepared to launch airstrikes on nuclear facilities, military and government sites. At the last minute, however, the Israeli Prime Minister had to halt his actions and toe the White House's diplomatic line. Another series of airstrikes on the bases of Yemen's Houthi militants. The Americans are not letting up. In a campaign that has been going on for a month, they are using both aviation and long-range missiles launched from destroyer decks in the Red Sea. The Houthis are one of Iran's key regional allies. The militants primarily threaten Israel and Western ships traveling from India to Europe via the Suez Canal. U.S. airstrikes are one of the main bargaining chips in the negotiations in Oman.
The Houthis will pay a severe price until they end their attacks on maritime traffic in the Red Sea. As you know, an additional negotiation between Steve Witkoff and Iran's representative has been scheduled for Saturday.
Tehran has been declaring for years that uranium enrichment is for energy purposes only. The problem is, this is seen quite differently by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which warns that the rate of enrichment of the element needed for a nuclear bomb is increasing significantly. We are holding talks. As the Supreme Leader stated, we are holding talks indirectly, with dignity and pride, and with all the necessary assurances to show that we are not pursuing a nuclear bomb. But promises alone are not enough. The Americans want to verify them. Hence, the attempt to reach a direct agreement between Washington and Tehran.
I want them to be a rich, great nation. The only thing is, one thing, simple, it's really simple, they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they got to go fast, because they're fairly close to having one. And they're not going to have one. And if we have to do something very harsh, we'll do it. And I'm not doing it for us, I'm doing it for the world. And these are radicalized people, and they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Israel wanted to take drastic measures. According to U.S. media, Tel Aviv was ready to launch massive airstrikes against Iranian nuclear facilities this May. According to journalist reports, it was close to a dangerous new war in the Middle East, which was stopped by the American president himself. Trump informed Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of his decision not to support such an attack during negotiations with Iran when the Prime Minister visited the White House earlier this month. During the meeting, Trump announced that the United States would begin negotiations with Iran on a deal that would prevent it from developing nuclear weapons. The next round of negotiations in Oman will take place this Saturday. Tehran is sending mixed signals. While political leaders lean toward dialogue, religious leaders are warning against an agreement with the Americans, declaring that they are ready to fight the West.
European and Ukrainian officials held talks in Paris on Thursday to plead Kiev's case to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and President Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff. The high-level diplomacy reflects Europe's mounting concern over the U.S. administration's overtures towards Moscow after the failure, so far, of Trump's efforts to arrange a ceasefire in the three-year-old Russia-Ukraine war.
All I can do is try and stop it. That's all I want to do. I want to stop the killing. And I think we're doing well in that regard. I think you'll have some very good proposals very soon.
Trump, who has long said he aims to swiftly end the Ukraine war, has indicated he is frustrated with both Moscow and Kiev, even as his administration has shifted U.S. rhetoric towards accommodating the Russian account of the conflict. Ukraine agreed to a Trump proposal last month for a ceasefire, which Russia rejected. The sides have agreed only to curbs on attacks against energy targets and at sea, which both accuse the other of violating.
There's so much more to it. There's security protocols. There's no NATO, Article 5. I mean, it's just, a lot of detail attached to it.
Kiev and its European allies say Moscow is to blame for rejecting Trump's proposal of a ceasefire last month, and are hoping to persuade Washington to take a tougher stance. They have pressed the case since a Russian attack that killed civilians, including Ukrainian Christian worshippers, in the city of Sumy on Sunday. Poland's Interior Minister, Tomasz Siemoniak, visited Polish police officers serving in the European Union Rule of Law Mission, EULEX, in Kosovo on Thursday, marking their 25-year presence and demonstrating continuing EU support for Kosovo's security. During his visit to the Polish Police Special Forces EULEX base in Mitrovica, Siemoniak participated in a traditional Polish Easter blessing ceremony. There are many positive aspects, as we can see now, but the work of police officers hasn't really changed, because from the 2000s up to the present day, even if things may seem calm, one day it's peaceful, and the next day there can be a serious threat. The danger is always present. The EULEX mission specifically began in 2008 when Kosovo declared independence from Serbia. It was the biggest and most expensive mission outside its external borders, and was tasked with fighting corruption and organised crime as well as prosecuting war crimes cases dating from the 1998 to 1999 conflict that were seen as too sensitive to be handled by local judges. Since 2018, the mission has ended its executive mission and now only monitors police and the judicial system.